red light, green light, except you can't move until the Netflix algorithm tells you it's safe. Everywhere you look, right? Squid Games memes, Squid Games remixes, Squid Game reaction videos, dissecting like the 6-second teaser clip from season 3 and whatnot. Did you ever notice how a show about humans being herded into like the sadistic game for entertainment has turned into a product where we are the players competing for attention and binge hours? Yes, Squid Game isn't just a series, right? It's a user manual for the streaming economy, if you're honest. And most of us are too busy cosplaying to see it. Sascha and welcome to another episode here for the Funkapod Mindful Media and Communication. So we're dissecting Squid Game, and not as fans today per se, but as a case study in modern storytelling. We might even call it a storytelling industrial complex if we want to. So the question here is now, of course, why did Squid Game resonate so hard, right? What makes it this masterclass in transcultural storytelling, from a Korean-only show to this global super phenomenon? And what happens when a platform treat a powerful narrative like an infinite ATM machine, right? Just it keeps coming and coming and coming, like churning out more until the message is unrecognizable, maybe. So I want to break down what Squid Game tells us about survival in the algorithm world, not just for the characters, but for us as media consumers. So strap in, get yourself a nice dalgona coffee, and let's get right into it. First of all, I want to give credit where credit's due. Squid Game, from a narrative point of view, is great. Not perfect in terms of no plot holes or things like this, but the way, especially season 1, of course, but the other seasons too, especially in the way they keep us involved, right? It's longing for more. It took that soul-crushing anxiety of being in debt, the hopelessness of like class hierarchy, right? The dead-end grind of capitalism, and transformed it all into like this twisted fairy tale. It was amazing. And if you look at like some theories right off the get-go in communication theories, we have like what we call narrative transportation theory. We had it on the pod before. And this theory shows that a story is emotionally charged and highly relatable, and then you get pulled in, right? So whenever you have like this highly relatable story that you're telling, the audience will get pulled in and absorbs what you're telling them. And Squid Game did that to millions of people, right? No matter what country you live in, you were tuned into Squid Game because you could relate, you can resonate. Yeah, this experience of feeling trapped, you're feeling forced, you have to play that game of capitalism, if you will, right? You didn't ask for it, but you have to. That resonates far beyond South Korea. And that was incredibly well done. Also, at the same time, Squid Game, unlike other productions from countries that are not the US, it never really diluted its cultural identity, which is very cool. It's social hierarchies, family roles, even the games themselves were distinctly Korean. And that's exactly why it worked so well, also on a global stage. There's another theory that's called the transcultural flow. Okay, transcultural flow explains that stories travel best when they stay rooted because, and you can probably relate, because authenticity is what crosses borders. It doesn't need to be like, oh, it's just like what we have, what I'm used to. No, you don't need to Americanize, Germanize, Thainize things. If something is authentically Korean, it can still cross borders because we are curious, we understand it, right? So authenticity is what crosses borders. So Squid Game wasn't polished for the imagined Western market. It was authentic, and authenticity is what sells. We know that, right? We know it from marketing. And well, visually was pretty genius. Like the tracksuits, fantastic. Those eerie childhood playgrounds, amazing. Those iconic circle, triangle, square masks. Yeah, it was all very, very well done. And these elements, like they became memes, they became tattoos, they became costumes. And we call this semiotic stickiness. Yeah, the kind that media marketers can actually only dream about, because semiotic, like how you're interpreting symbols and things like this, how symbols and so on have meaning, and it all had meaning, right? You wear a mask with a square on it, everyone knows, like, oh, that's from Squid Game. It was perfect. It was incredibly well planned and executed. But then, I mean, so far I'm giving lots of credit to Squid Game, but then Netflix comes in, throws all the money at Squid Game, which is great. But whenever the platform shows up, parasites are far away. Because you see, when a story goes viral, Netflix does what Netflix does. Drill, baby, drill, to quote like politicians, right? They transform a raw, powerful narrative into this, what do we call it, franchise blueprint. Okay. Season 2, Season 3. We already know there will be spin-offs. A reality show that mimics the games. Hi, Mr. Beast, minus the actual murder, even so, right? I guess for legal reasons. It's incredibly ironic, I think, that a show about commodifying humans has been commodified. And so that's another theory of ours that we already know that jumps into play or fits in, the narrative paradigm theory. Okay, narrative paradigm theory. We talked about this before. The theory says that humans judge stories by their coherence. Does it hold together? Does it make sense? And by the fidelity. Does it feel true? Can I understand that? And the first season of Squid Game had a high coherence and fidelity, right? It felt honest, even in its exaggeration, of course, but as the franchise now grows, they're pumped full of like algorithm-approved cliffhangers, maybe even merch tie-ins, that narrative trust risks collapsing. And I mean, I think once the American spin-offs hit, it's probably game over, to be honest. Because if fans sense the story is losing coherence, that it's no longer about systemic cruelty, but just another money printer, they'll check out. If we're also honest, while we probably all watched Season 3, the hype was way less than, well, Season 1, of course, but also way less than Season 2, right? And a theory that you're familiar with fits here too, a gender-setting theory. The first season set the cultural agenda around class warfare, desperation, but Season 2, the platform's only agenda was, hey, keep watching, right? Season 3 is coming. Season 3 is going to fix everything. Just keep watching Season 2. Did it fix everything? Yeah, this is the point where machine eats art. And too often, the art doesn't survive. And one of the most mind-bending parts of the Squid Game phenomenon is seeing kids on TikTok reenacting red light, green light, laughing, like dancing, basically making like a murder game into a birthday party theme. Like what? And well, hey, welcome cultivation theory. You know that one. Cultivation theorist tells us that repeated exposure to stylized violence normalizes it, right? The more you see people turned into cannon fodder on screen, the less you flinch. And before you all experience that, Season 1, you're like, oh my God, you might even like have covered your eyes. Season 3, we're like, that's it, nothing more, come on. Yeah, so that's cultivation. The more you're seeing it, the more you're okay with it. And then also a theory we already discussed on the pod, spiral of silence. If you're uncomfortable with how Squid Game has become a pop culture toy box, if you will, it's very hard to say that out loud, right? You might hear people calling you a buzzkill, boring, a snowflake. So you stay silent. And the fewer critical voices there are, the more it looks like everyone's fine with it. It's a feedback loop of complacency, if you will. That the memes keep rolling, the challenges keep trending, and the critique that Squid Game was supposed to make gets flattened. Because challenging that consensus is socially kind of risky. I've realized that a few times because I talk about media stuff, right? So I criticized a few shows as of late, not on the pod, but in classes and on conferences, and just you keep coming, or like you talk and you criticize things, and then people are outraged, like how I criticize Severance, for example, or said that it's boring at times, for example, and other shows. So that leads to, in my case, not because I know what it is, but it leads to this spiral of silence, right? To like, okay, if people always hate on me if I just share my opinion, and I'm just not gonna do it anymore. So the show that warned us about commodified suffering is now feeding a hype machine built on commodified suffering. That the cycle repeats. It's mind-blowing at times. It's, the machines must be like, haha, gotcha, humans, gotcha. And the crazy part is that the platform, I wish that the movie wouldn't exist, because it would be also a cool horror movie about like Netflix as the platform. The platform is now the real showrunner. And Netflix doesn't just distribute content, it shapes content. They know Squid Game worked, so now every pitch will get squidified. Yeah, high stakes, childlike horror, class tension, moral ambiguity. It's going to be in every pitch now that goes to Netflix. Yeah, it becomes a template. And that's what I call like algorithmic narrative convergence. Okay, algorithmic narrative convergence. Every original story starts to look like the last hit because the platform's data models optimize for proven engagement, right? The data models don't care about how it looks, how it feels as a diff. No, it just looks for what's the highest potential engagement. And Marshall McLuhan is always coming back to Marshall McLuhan. He reminded us, or he warned us, the medium is the message, right? Classic, the most famous McLuhan quote out there. And if you build a medium that rewards cliffhangers, twists, and let's be honest, endless rage baits, you will get stories shaped that way, no matter what the writer originally intended. And I think that's what is at stake for all of us in communication, in media, even in education. The structure will shape, reshape, change the meaning if you're not vigilant. And unfortunately, being vigilant is pretty hard these days. So, all that said, what does Squid Game teach us beyond the color of a cool tracksuit, right? First thing, authenticity resonates, but it's pretty fragile. The local stories matter, but are pretty vulnerable to flattening once the platform sees a profit opportunity. I think we can see how the cultural impact in Squid Game has changed from season 1 to season 3. Narrative trust, number 2, depends on coherence. Yeah, once your message starts bending to the algorithm, your audience will sense the break. They might stick around for a while, but they might be less engaged, they might be less hyped, and then eventually, it's dying off, dying down. Number 3, silence favors the hype. The spiral silence theory. If you see the ethical red flags, but feel too scared to say something about it, the hype's gonna grow unchecked. Have ethics, stick to them. That would be the favor I ask of you. Next one, meaning is negotiated. As Stuart Hall, a researcher in media communication studies, the first theory you learn as a communication student, encoding, decoding. It shows that audiences will always remix and meme your story in unpredictable ways. In a perfect laboratory setting, I'm the sender, you're the receiver. I send my message via a channel, the message gets sent, you receive it via your channel, and then you understand it. In the real world, sender and receiver are never on 100% the same page. Right? There's so much noise in between while I'm sending the message to you. You might misunderstand, you don't get my humor. There's so many ways that the message can be distorted. So if you build moral discomfort, don't be surprised if people dance on top of it. And you're like, I didn't mean that. You shouldn't have fun with it. It's a warning sign, and people are just dressing up on Halloween and are just having fun with it. Things like this are going to happen. And lastly, I think it's one of the biggest learnings always for Squid Game, for the Squid Game makers, I believe. The algorithmic pressure is real. Your story will be shaped by the distribution system. There's no way around it. Even for us content creators, if you upload something, right? And then you see, okay, post 1 doesn't get as much engagement as post 2. And you're going to post more stuff like post number 2, right? Like, no one can escape it. So your story will be shaped by the algorithm, by the distribution system. So you have to plan for that. Don't be surprised. It's going to happen. So I feel I have to say that now at the end, like, look, I love Squid Game. I think it was amazing. But I also think it's a cautionary tale. It very well shows how fragile a powerful story is once the distribution machine decides to mine it for content. And it's not just Netflix. It's just the one example right now. Name any distribution system, okay? Spotify for music, Amazon Prime, it's all the same, okay? It shows how quick we are to celebrate violence if it's packaged as a bright, bingeable product. And it shows how platforms don't just host culture, it shows how they produce it. So maybe the next time you see a giant killer doll staring you down on TikTok, you could ask yourself, is this still the message the creators meant to send? Or is this just the algorithm playing games with us? This also goes if you're like me, based in Bangkok, and you have this giant swing in your city, and people are just playing around and think it's funny. That was a Funky Pod. Do remember, right? It's the algorithms arena, and survival is really not easy. Let me know how you do it. How do you survive in this arena? What do you think about Squid Game, about the impact on society, culture, and so on? Shout out in the comments. That would be fantastic. Follow @FunkyPod on social media. And, well, stay safe, take care, stay human. Until then, we talk next time. Sorry, Cup.